Asian heritage of both you and Mr. Chandra area who were disqualified. You keep coming back to this. Do you believe race played a role in this? Because that seems to be a component of what you're saying here.
That would be a good question for the Liberal Party, because the facts that they've disqualified 2 people from immigrant communities, both from the South Asian community, I mean, I think the Liberal Party would probably be best suited to answer that question.
But what do you believe? I mean, you have mentioned this. I assume you must have mentioned this in your direct appeal to the I believe it's 12 people who were meeting today to decide on this. I mean, what is your view on this as the person who has been disqualified from the race today?
I think it's a targeted attack against all immigrants in Canada. The fact that they do not want to have people from immigrant communities represented for top leadership roles. It's okay.
No, Ruby, it has nothing to do with that. Well, maybe it does subconsciously. Maybe it does. We haven't had a female prime minister, like an actually elected one. Okay. We haven't had a person of color as prime minister. I'm sure all that will change in coming years, but being a prime minister and having ties through your heritage to the Indian government in a time right now where things are just so volatile between the Canadian government and the Indian government, it seems like an unnecessary thing to do. So did this have anything to do with race? I don't know, maybe. Who knows? Did this have something to do with possibly you having ties with the Indian government who we're in a constant political war with? I'm going to put my money on that and say, absolutely, you are too hot to the fire. And for that reason, the Liberal, board of directors, they're saying that they can't trust you. Alrighty, well, the Liberal leadership race continues with a wild spin, a racist spin at that. Liberals are really showing their true colors here, man. People are running, people are collecting their funds, and so far the Liberal Party has disqualified 2 candidates. A Indian man who did not speak English or French, and then last night a Indian woman, Ruby. And this is kind of crazy because both people were able to collect the funds, and now you're seeing the true colors of the Liberal Party. So the Indian princess is kicked out, and it comes down to just a few people here. It comes down to Mark Carney, comes down to Chrystia Freeland, and comes down to Karina Gould. Everybody else has been either dropped out or, in this case, kicked out. So very, very interesting. We're going to take a look at Ruby going on CBC and talking about her side of things, because this caught everybody by surprise. Her campaign was pretty decent. Her campaign was all right. She raised the money. She used to be a MP way back in the day. She has very traditional Liberal values, so she views herself, tries to brand herself as the Canadian Donald Trump, and she's, seems like she was standing up against wokeness, which was a breath of fresh air within the Liberal Party. I've said this before many, many, many times. There's nothing inherently wrong with the Liberal Party. Like, it's just a name, right? Conservative, Liberal, NDP, that doesn't matter. It's who's in the party and who's pushing those values. That's what matters. So you can go back a year. I've been saying that you need the Liberal Party to have a clean slate. Every person that's on the Liberal Party right now needs to be gone by Felicia, and they need to bring new people in. And it seemed like Ruby was trying to be one of those new people to be brought in, but of course it didn't work. So we're going to take a look at that right now. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's take a look at this interview. It's pretty crazy that out of nowhere, she was unanimously voted on to be disqualified from the race. Super bizarre.
Thank you for joining us. Have you received official word yet from the Liberal Party on your disqualification from this race?
I haven't as of yet. It's quite interesting that I turned on CBC News and read your headline that I was being disqualified from the race. I checked my email, my campaign team has, and as of this moment, we have not received any indication from the Liberal Party as to that type of decision, which to me is very alarming and very shocking that there are these types of leaks, from sources that are occurring.
We have just received a statement from the Liberal Party. Ms. Dhalla, I swear this...
Yeah. She was actually accused of being under foreign interference, I think from India, of all places. So very interesting that they're using foreign interference as a way to remove people, right? Whether it's true or not, I don't know. They did the same thing with Chrystia Freeland a couple weeks ago or a week ago. They said that she's compromised from foreign interference. So, but they didn't kick her out. Is it because she's white and not brown? I don't know. I'm just calling a spade here. This is pretty wild.
This just came into my email. It's a statement by Azam Ismail, who is the Liberal Party of Canada National Director, on Ruby Dhalla's candidacy for leader of the Liberal Party. Today, the Liberal Leadership Vote Committee unanimously made the decision to disqualify Ruby Dhalla. The decision followed an extensive process and review, including interviews, questionnaires, and an opportunity for Dr. Dhalla to directly address the committees. After a thorough investigation, the Leadership Vote Committee and the Leadership Expense Committee, sitting jointly, unanimously determined that Dr. Dhalla was in breach of 10 violations of the National Liberal Leadership Rules, Leadership Vote Rules, and the Leadership Expense Rules. The violations include concerns about alleged violations of the Canada Elections Act, certain other election finance matters, non-disclosure of material facts, and inaccurate financial reporting. The Leadership Vote Committee determined that the violations were extremely serious and accepted the recommendation of the Chief Electoral Officer and disqualified Dr. Dhalla under Section 8 of the National Leadership Rules. I'm assuming this is the first you are hearing this statement. What do you say that it was unanimous, that there were 10 violations of those various rules?
Well, I think it speaks to the state of the Liberal Party of Canada that a candidate who is running to become leader of the party, who is running to become prime minister in our country, is finding out that she has been disqualified on air from an email that the media outlet that she is interviewing with has received. So it is very alarming and very shocking. It is certainly not surprising, because I think the Liberal Party of Canada was seeing exactly what our internal polls are telling us, that my campaign and my team, we were neck to neck with a front runner in the race. They did not want me to go on to that debate stage in Montreal. They certainly did not want me on that ballot. And the Liberal Party of Canada wanted to complete the coronation of Mark Carney. All of the allegations that you have mentioned have been, that you have spoken about. They are completely false. They are fabricated. And I will not allow the Liberal Party of Canada, or anyone for that matter, to smear my name or to smear the name of thousands of volunteers in our campaign.
You said you had an opportunity to present to the committee that made this decision today, correct? What did you say to them?
Yes.
What did you say?
On the committee, they had members from the voting committee, from the expense committee. This committee has been kept secret from all of the candidates. The candidates have been asking who are the members of this committee. It wasn't until today, when I actually presented to them via a virtual call, that I was even made aware of who the individuals were. Neither was time taken for anyone to even introduce themselves. But regardless, no matter what we said and what proof was provided that these violations, were not committed, that this was simply false and fabricated breaches that the party is alleging, they still had a predetermined agenda to keep Ruby Dhalla off of the ballot, to keep Ruby Dhalla out of the debate stage, because they did not want anyone challenging the front runner, their blue-eyed boy, Mark Carney.
Okay, I mean, you make that allegation. You say you have thousands of people in your volunteers in your organization.
Let's just be, to quote a liberal here, let me be clear. Ruby was not going to win. It wasn't even going to be close. I don't care how much money she's got. I don't care where she's coming from. It was interesting to see her throw her name in the ring right now, but you're going up against Mark Carney, who was literally selected by Justin Trudeau, who's in it with all the Tories. It just wasn't going to happen, all right? Like, Chrystia Freeland was the second in command. If Canada had nuclear codes, Chrystia Freeland would have had them ready to go as the second in command for this country. Chrystia Freeland was a pretty big deal for the ranking system in politics, and now she's going to get her ass handed to her because Mark Carney is in the ring. It's already predetermined. Carney is going to win. That's why the Conservatives aren't wasting a single dollar in editing or advertising budget to target anybody else other than Mark Carney. They're not even saying Comrade Kamala, or not Comrade Kamala, for crying out loud, Comrade Chrystia or Carbon Tax Freeland. They're not even wasting their time saying that, because the Conservatives know it's going to be Mark Carney. In order of who has the most amount of votes in the Liberal leadership race, it's going to be Mark Carney. Then way further down, but not too far down, it's going to be Chrystia Freeland. Mark Carney's probably going to get like 47 or like 53 to 55% of all the votes. Freeland probably get like 22, and then maybe Gould scoops up a little bit of the rest, right? Like it's going to be a pretty wide gap between everybody. Like there was no chance that you were going to win. Now, does this mean that people could have been going to Ruby in maybe the tens of thousands, right? Because there's what, 400,000 people. Could she have gotten 3, 4, 5% of the voting? Yeah, that's very possible. That's very possible. Would that have taken from Mark Carney? Yes, that's also quite possible. But she also carries some baggage, according to the Liberal Party, ties with the Indian government. She was born in Winnipeg or Manitoba or something, so she may not be from India, but she has ties through her heritage, which is why they've accused her of Indian foreign interference or something. It's still wild. It's absolutely still wild. Don't get me wrong, but there was no way she was going to win. I'm sorry, Ruby. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you were not going to win.
I've not seen any polling anywhere that puts you neck and neck with Mark Carney.
Not even close.
If anything, he has a commanding lead over even Chrystia Freeland and Karina Gould, who in some form are second and third amongst Liberals and amongst Canadians. I mean, what are you basing this on, that you were the threat to Mr. Carney?
Well, I'm the only one that was the outsider in the race. I am the only candidate that has not been an advisor to the current administration. I am the only candidate that has not served as a minister or a member of parliament. I am the only one that was an outsider that was continuing to challenge the front runner, continuing to challenge and speak out for the establishment, and also bringing forward policies which I thought were very important to bring our party back to the center, to return our party back into the hands of the membership and the grassroots. And when I talk about these polling numbers, this was and is going to be a preferential ballot where people mark 1, 2, 3, or 4. And even though people may be supporting Mark Carney as their number one choice, they were looking at supporting Ruby Dhalla for their second choice, along with the other thousands of members that our team had signed up. And I think that the Liberal Party must have felt some sort of threat to the establishment, to their coronation that they wanted for their front runner.
Okay, you say you are an outsider. One of the allegations against you is that there was an outsider, as in a non-Canadian citizen, playing a role in your campaign, involved in the direction and support of the campaign and financially contributing to your campaign. Are you aware of a wealthy non-Canadian citizen playing a role in your campaign and donating to your campaign?
First of all, there has been no donations. Again, these are false and fabricated stories that are being made up. We have provided them with all of the information in regards to this, but if the false and fabricated, and fake allegations continue, we have seen that they will say whatever it takes, and they did by having me disqualified in this race so that I would not participate in the debates in Montreal on Monday and Tuesday.
But is there an extremely wealthy non-Canadian citizen supporting your campaign?
No, there is not.
There is nobody from outside the country who's not a Canadian providing any kind of material support, even if it's donations of things, advising you, giving you direction in any way whatsoever. Because this is one of the allegations that I am told you were presented with. You know what I'm talking about here, I assume, Ms. Dhalla, and that was discussed at this committee this afternoon.
Yes, it was. And I can share with you that my candidacy was historic. My candidacy was historic because I was the first woman, of color. I was one of the first women of an immigrant community to seek the leadership for the Liberal Party of Canada, to become Canada's Prime Minister. And I had thousands of well-wishers across the world who were excited about this movement and this moment for our party and our country.
Did you?
The only place I was excited for you, Ruby, was Brampton, where you used to be a member of parliament, right? And to be honest, Brampton is like barely even a part of Canada, holding on by a thread, just by postal code. That's it. Like Canadian, like Brampton is its own little ecosystem. You see it all the time online, man. People are pooping at gas stations and stuff. Sorry, not sorry.
Were you aware, or do you know, if there was a corporation that was paying money to some of your campaign staff? Because corporations cannot donate in the political process here. This is another one of the allegations against you.
You know, the allegations list, there were 12 allegations that they presented, and I can't tell you it is again false. Our campaign has not in any way been non-compliant with Elections Canada. We have ensured that we have followed all of the rules of Elections Canada. The Liberal Party has come out. One day it was foreign interference. The next day it's about financial violations. I don't know what story is going to be coming out tomorrow, but I can tell you the fact that they have disqualified me clearly shows they did not want me on that debate stage.
Yeah. Did they not want her on the debate stage? Did the Liberal Party want to get rid of her? Sure. Yeah. Why would they want her? She's not a real contender. It wasn't going to happen. She's running against two actual Liberal MPs and a elitist who's been handpicked by Justin Trudeau, who's guaranteed to win. So, of course. Now, in terms of the finances, I have absolutely no freaking idea. Maybe there was a company from India or a foreign government or a foreign country that donated money to a Canadian shell company, and then that was passed on and passed on and passed on and eventually made its way to, you know, her campaign. Maybe it was like a crazy multi-tiered system. Instead of just one transaction, there was 3, 4, 5 or more, right, to kind of bury the findings, and maybe they found out about it. I don't know. I have absolutely no freaking idea. But a lot of people are very skeptical, and it sucks that she was disqualified, because it would have been very interesting to see her go up against Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland and Karina Gould, who's like the least serious of all the candidates. If it was my way, I would have rather seen Ruby go and replace Karina Gould, who's guaranteed not to win. She's gonna get like 3% at most, and I think Ruby could actually poll better than Karina Gould, anyways, because she's just so freaking irrelevant, man. But that would have been pretty funny, because the debate is coming up. It's coming up very, very soon.
And they tried to use any excuse they could to ensure that I would be disqualified.
So this was an investigation, as I understand it, done, for the chief electoral officer, an assessment done. This is it's on official letterhead from a law firm. This was presented to you. This seems like quite the elaborate thing to do to keep you off the debate stage. I mean, people may look at that explanation and the process here and wonder if it's true. I mean, what do you say to anyone who's skeptical of your claims here?
Well, they took out one candidate from the South Asian community earlier on in the race, and they silenced him because he has not spoken since in regards to why he was let go. And they knew that they would not be able to silence
Kendra or whatever the hell his name was. The guy prided himself on the fact that he didn't speak French. He's like, it doesn't matter. Quebec doesn't need to have somebody who speaks French. French Canadians don't need someone who speaks French. No, it's all about the messaging. And the guy barely spoke English. He needed subtitles. So, no, Canada is not going to elect somebody who has, like, it's hard enough to have a thick French accent and be a politician or even prime minister in this country. You have to be able to speak French and English, and it has to be presentable. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's about optics. It's included. Optics are definitely included in this. This is politics. You're not just representing a few people in the country, you're representing the entire country and then the global stage. And if you're not speaking French and English and you're barely understandable, it's just not going to happen. So that's why he was kicked out. I don't give a shit if he was a perfect candidate. You couldn't understand the fella. And he prided himself on not speaking French. It's a bilingual country. I was born French. I learned English in grade 5. Yes, French annoys the absolute shit out of me. It annoys the shit out of me. But still, it's part of this country. French and English, right? That's why we have stop signs that say arrêt, right? We're a freaking bilingual country. Deal with it. Learn the language.
Me, and they're trying to do everything they can to cover their tracks. I do know what the truth is. I know that all of the information, was provided with them, and the allegations that they have made. One day it was again on foreign interference from the Modi government, who I haven't spoken to or been in contact with in years. And then today it was in regards to the financial, violations. They're false, they're fabricated, they're fake, and I will not let them smear the name of my campaign or the integrity of our campaign.
Well, as we discussed
But you used to talk to the Modi government. This is the thing. You used to talk to the Modi government, and things are very sensitive between India and Canada. through interference, through the Sikh community, Singh Nijar, and the assassination of that fella, are just a lot of tensions. So no, you can't have ties to the Modi government once upon a time and then think you can waltz in here and be elected as the most powerful position that you could possibly be elected in Canada, the prime minister, and have access to our non-nuclear, fake nuclear codes. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. But if you've ever had ties to the Modi government, who we are in direct conflict with, politically speaking, no, it's just not going to happen. Sorry, but also not sorry.
Earlier today, before I knew about this meeting and before we knew about this decision, we did talk about your past support for Narendra Modi. As this evolved throughout the day, that does not appear to be the reason here at all. Like, that could be one political concern they have. But in terms of my understanding of the allegation against you, where there is a foreign interference component here, and I don't know if this is of the 10 violations that the party has concluded, and I don't know if you know at this point in time. But the claim was
because I haven't even received a letter yet. So maybe during this interview I might have received something, but prior to coming on air, I just heard about the breaches from yourself. I have not been informed as to what the decision of the Liberal Party was, and it was actually through, the CBC that I actually heard about the decision of the Liberal Party.
Well, look, I'm sorry you had to find out that way. We were reaching out to your campaign as we were getting a sense of where this was going for reaction, but I appreciate.
That's pretty messed up. I mean, they could have called her. They could have, done a FaceTime with her. Somebody could have showed up. Like, that part is pretty messed up. Just letting her know that she's been disqualified through a freaking media article and a breaking news story. I mean, that's unprofessional by the Liberal Party.
That you don't want to react to something until you know.
The Liberal Party would have reached out to me versus the CBC.
Yeah.
Well, yes. So, I mean, you did speak to them today. You did make your case to the committee today, and clearly it didn't convince them. And I know you say this is a larger effort to keep you off the debate stage to protect Mr. Kearney. But what do you do now? My understanding is you can appeal to the Permanent Appeals Committee of the Liberal Party. That would be a route that is open to you and anybody. Mr. Arya could have done that as well, though I don't believe he did it. What are you going to do, Ms. Dhalla?
I guess I'm going to take some time, first of all, to process what the Liberal Party has stated are the reasons for the breaches, because they have been provided with all of the evidence. If they have a preset, determined agenda, they have the establishment there. Obviously, all of the people that were on the committee are all a part of one team, and they do not want to have anyone challenging the status quo. They do not want to have anyone challenging the front runner in the Liberal leadership race, which I do not understand, because we were in an election, and in an election, it's the talking about progressive ideas. I think it is a sad day today, not only for the Liberal Party, but for democracy, for free speech here in Canada, and also for those that want a progressive policy agenda for immigrants in our country, for people of color, because with my candidacy in the race, we were making history, and it is really unfortunate that the Liberal Party didn't see it as such.
You mentioned
you're going to multiply Brampton across the country. Look, I think that there's a lot of playing like the victim card here. Like, who is Ruby, right? Who is Ruby? Where does she come from? What's her foot in the door with politics in recent times, right? She was the MP in Brampton from 2004 to 2011. What has she done since then? Where has she been? Has she been in the news? The answer is no. What's her resume for the past 5 or even 10 years? Like, what has she been doing? Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Chrystia Freeland is currently an MP, and she was just the second in command to the Prime Minister. Karina Gould is currently a Liberal MP. And Mark Carney is been on an advisor to the Liberal Party. He's also been a banker. Yeah, I know he's a World Economic Forum. Bad guy, bad guy, bad guy. Let's just get past that. I'm just laying out resumes here for people that would actually support these folks, okay? Mark Carney at least has a foot in the door with experience in recent years, not necessarily politics. And you can see that it's a reflection in his interviews where reporters are wanting to just badger him. You can see with Rosemary Barr, whatever the hell her name is, right? And she just wanted to like verbally abuse Mark Carney, and she was holding it back. Oh, your answers are so crap, but I can't do anything because you're freaking paying my bills at the end of the day, right? Mark Carney, Freeland, Gould, everyone who's running has political experience. Mark Carney's been an advisor, not directly in politics. Ruby used to be in politics, but where has she been? Nowhere to be found recently. Has she had ties between when she was last in office, last as an MP, and then 2011 to now? Has she had communication with the Modi government? I mean, the way she worded it, I haven't had communication with them in years. Does years mean 20 years? Or does years mean 3 or 4 or 5 years? We don't really know. So I don't really appreciate her just continually doing this. What's your experience? Where are you coming from with this, right? She's trying to pander, saying freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. Come on, folks. Come on. Don't fall for it. She was going to be on the liberal side at the end of the day.